So I'm not really good at like making like Facebook posts and things like that. I'm not good at structuring them. I'm not good with grammar. Uh, but when it comes to like Ralph, I wanted to like speak. I wanted to say something. I need to kind of say something like get it out, I guess. So I figured I'll just make a video, and I don't know how long this is gonna be. This isn't a Kyle Bridger YouTube video. This is just Kyle Schneider talking about a friend and my mentor who who's gone, and I obviously am not okay with that. I'm also not really good with like grief. My dad passed away, and I still, being honest and open here, I still have not really dealt with that. I don't really deal with that stuff well. I don't really like funerals and things like that. But I was taking a shower, and like I was just thinking about kind of the memories and the fun times that I had with Ralph, and like it just made me sit down and want to like do this video rather than trying to figure out how to make a Facebook post. And again, I don't know how long this is gonna be because this is literally just me yapping. But like Ralph, literally, he really meant a lot to me. I've said it, but like he legitimately was my mentor. When I feel like when everybody comes into like professional wrestling, you think like you know everything, you think you have it all figured out. I got into wrestling when I was literally 13, like got into the wrestling business at 13. Before that, I was obviously a fan, a lifelong fan. But at 13 is when I got into the wrestling business. The story goes, Ralph created ACW, and I'll get into that more. He created ACW, and ran shows, and then I think at some point just really couldn't feasibly do it anymore. So he wanted to sell ACW, and there was a connecting piece. This guy Jeff, who works for the Jewish Community Center where ACW used to run a lot, used to go into my dad's pawn shop. He knew that my dad. Shout out to Jeff because he always like he knew that I loved wrestling as a little kid, and he always found a way to like make me feel like special. He constantly, because FCW used to run that venue, so Jeff had some sort of connections or some old things that maybe he just had in his house and stuff. A lot of like signed action figures and things like that he would always give me, or give to my dad to give to me, which is really cool. So really shout out to Jeff. But that was the connecting piece. So Jeff, I think, went to the pawn shop one day and asked my dad, I know your son's into wrestling. Would you be interested in purchasing a wrestling company? And then my dad, Jeff, and Ralph went out for lunch one day and basically figured it all out. I was not there. That's like the one piece here that I'm not involved in. I was not there because my dad wanted to surprise me with that. So yeah, he purchased the company, came home that night, and basically broke the news to me. And again, I was like 13. Broke the news to me that, hey, we own a wrestling company now, because I'm not, I'm not really interested in a lot. I'm still not really interested in a lot when it comes to like, a job and things like that. There's nothing in that realm of like a career that really interests me, except for professional wrestling. That was always the one thing that I wanted to do. I would tell my parents as a little kid that I was going to be a pro wrestler, which didn't necessarily happen, but I got close enough, at least, I think. That was the only thing I really wanted to actually do. So I dropped out of school and stuff. It wasn't great. So my dad bought this company as like here's something I know my son likes that is not a great business, but it's at least something he wants to do. And so that was basically it. He bought the company as a way to try and get me to actually want to do something. So yeah, that was kind of it. And when I first met Ralph, he treated me like a kid, which obviously he should have, in a sense. But like I said, everybody that gets into wrestling kind of thinks they know everything, especially a teenager who's going through puberty. And again, this is the only thing I actually cared about. So of course I'm going to think that I, know everything. So when I first met him, it was not great. We were on pretty rocky terms, because I was just giving my opinion and my thoughts on things that were wrong, or at least just weren't needed, or just weren't okay for a 13-year-old kid with no experience to be saying to someone who had been in the wrestling business for like 20 years, right? So I distinctly remember asking him one day. We had like a talent group. It's still technically a thing like that we post about availability and things like that Ralph created all those years ago. And so I would go back, like they would all rib each other and like joke with each other and kind of tear into each other, and it got pretty intense. Some of the things that you definitely can't be talking about. but they were all, it was all in fun and just all kind of fucking with each other. So I would be in there, and I would be fucking with them too, because now again I'm a teenager who's trying to have fun, so I'd be fucking with them too. But for some reason when I did it, because I wasn't one of the boys, so I'm doing it. It was just very disrespectful to them. So I don't think that necessarily helped in a way. So I just remember messaging Ralph on Facebook one time and just being like, "Why do you hate me? Like, what's the heat, brother?" But obviously I didn't say that. I just said, "Why do you hate me?" And he just put it out there. He's like, "I don't hate you, but you're a kid who knows nothing, who's telling me what's going on," and da 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 da. Right? So we actually had a very good talk, and I think once he realized, like, I'm not some punk kid who's just in some phase. Once he realized that this is what I was passionate about, and this is what I love, and this is the only thing I wanted to do, everything flipped. Everything changed. He totally changed when it came to me. And he took me under his wing, and he really taught me everything I know. Again, when you get into the wrestling business, you think you know everything, and I knew a little bit, like most people probably know a little bit. Being like a smark and things like that. But you really don't know the ins and outs of professional wrestling. So Ralph taught me all of that. This is a conversation I've had with my friends too, where they're like, "Wait, you were taught these things?" It's just like intuition to me, and I disagree with that. I think maybe because they're wrestlers, again, they may have more of an intuition than I do, but you need to be taught the ins and outs of this. Not even just in the actual the action of professional wrestling, the actual outside of it. Especially, again, I wasn't training to be a wrestler. I was training to be a booker, right? Or like a writer, a producer, things like that. That's what I wanted to kind of do once I realized wrestling in itself probably isn't my path. I wanted to put the shows together and help, book the shows and things like that. I do think you need to be taught that. I think, again, it can be instinctual to a degree, but I think that there's more to it than just what you think. So Ralph taught me everything, and that's why he really is like my mentor, because he taught me, how to structure a card, how to time out a card, why you don't put this next to that, space out your multi-man matches, what I'm saying, be careful of who you're booking against who, all that type of stuff I don't want to fully dive into right now, but like just the actual act of putting everything together and why you put things where you put them and why you don't put things where you don't put things, he taught me all of that, as well as taught me more stuff about the actual act of wrestling and things like that. Yeah, he just taught me so much and really took me under his wing and defended me when he really probably didn't need to. Because again, a lot of these older guys, they really ripped into me. They really did not like me. And, I'm not saying it's not for any reason. Like, I didn't make myself very likable. I understand that. I'm obviously different and more mature now at 27 compared to 13. But, like, these guys would really tear into me, especially, again, for someone that's a kid that maybe, yes, they may be disrespectful, but you may try and help them. A lot of guys didn't try and help me. A lot of guys didn't want to try and help me learn or tell me what was wrong. They'd rather just bully me and kind of put me down. And Ralph always stuck up for me, again, even when he didn't need to or shouldn't have. He always put his neck out there for me and always did me right once he realized how much I genuinely do care about this stuff. There was only like one thing that he ever told me that like I didn't follow, or that me and my dad technically didn't follow, and I regret it. I don't want to get into it, but I do regret it. It's like literally the one thing that we didn't kind of listen to him on, and I wish I had, but us not listening to him about this kind of estranged us a little bit. It kind of made like, not for a long time, it was like maybe like 2 or 3 months where we didn't really talk to Ralph or see Ralph. He left ACW because he was the booker and he didn't want to book anymore because of this decision. He just wanted nothing to do with it. And that's where I kind of came in and started booking for a little bit. And then Sal started booking for WWN and stuff. Like, he was booking our shows with Trevin helping and stuff like that. And then when we did Proving Ground and the weekly shows, that's when Ralph came back. And he came back and like me and him were doing, it was, at first it was called Thursday Night Throwdown because we were in like a country bar on Thursdays. And so Ralph was booking those shows, but he had me kind of running it. Like, he would book it and then he would be like, all right, this is what I want. And now you deliver it. Tell the talent, work with the talent, you know what I'm saying? And which again really helped me because that taught me how to talk to talent, how to figure out how to get this across and that across and da 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 da. But he would always be there. If there was, he literally would tell me, this is the card, this is what I want, this is the times, this is the referees. Now you go figure all this out. You go coordinate it with the talent and the refs and the managers and the announcer and all that, right? But he would always say, but if you need me, I'm here. I'm going to be sitting at the bar or something like that. If something comes across, somebody's giving you a hard time, or there's a question you're not getting, you come find me and we'll figure it out. And sometimes I would. I would go find him and say, hey, this guy's not okay with this, or, we're stumped on how to, you wanted this, but, so-and-so just brought this up to me, and so we're kind of confused. And he would always be like, all right, let's go talk to them. And we would go back there and we would figure it out. So, yeah, just he came back around, and then we were booking for a little bit. Then we went to the event center and it switched, and he was with us for a little bit. And again, it was the same thing. And then it got to a point where he wasn't even booking it. He was there, but he put it on me. He got to a point where maybe, I don't know if he didn't want to do it anymore or he just wanted me to do it. But basically he was like, all right, well, now I want you to start booking it and you to start figuring all this out. And still, though, if there's an issue or something like that, come find me and we'll figure it out. Yeah, so I started booking, and he would be there and stuff, but he was, towards the end there, of his time, at least in that run, not his end, he kind of was more focused on, like, drinking and things like that. So it got to a point where he kind of stepped away. He needed to kind of step away, and I was booking, but he always would check in on me and always would, like, make sure I'm doing good. And from time to time, he would come around and hang out and stuff like that. One thing we did argue about a little bit, it was funny. It was like the first actual feud that I kind of booked out, and he totally let me book this feud out and stuff like that. And then when it came to like the blow off and the finish and stuff like that, it wasn't the blow off. It was the match before the blow off. I think we were arguing about why the heel would do this, because I wanted the heel to come back and jump the babyface again, and he was arguing, and we went back and forth, but then once I explained it to him, he was like, oh, okay, I totally get it. I was just misreading the situation. So, like, he was just very giving with that stuff, and, like, he would argue with you, if he didn't think it was right, he would argue with you and tell you, like, hey, no, that's wrong, but then if he was wrong, he would say, okay, no, I get it now, that makes sense, fuck it, go ahead. So I really couldn't ever thank him enough, like, for really, taking me under his wing once he realized how much I did care about this, and, like, really teaching me everything I know and helping me get to a point where I actually have some bit of actual knowledge on how to put a show together and whatnot. I have tons of, like, Ralph stories. There's something I can't tell. I've seen everybody saying that. Like, there's a lot of stuff we can't say because he was kind of a wild man, and that's why we love him so much. But, like, there's a few that I do want to talk about a little bit. There was, like, one, when he was in New York before he came to Florida, he was doing, like, security detail for, like, concerts and things, and he got a call from the boss that said, like, hey, there's some WWE diva that has to do, like, something in New York, and they need a bodyguard, so I'm putting you with her. They said he got there, and it was Stacy Keibler, and she had, like, a media day in New York for, like, WrestleMania that year, whatever year it was, or something like that, and he was like, Ralph, if anybody knows Ralph, he was, like, the kind of rough, tough, not super emotional kind of guy. But he was like, dude, the moment I saw her in person, I melted. He was like, she was so beautiful and so sweet. And he was telling me how, they went out to dinner or lunch or dinner, and she paid for it and she was super sweet and very grateful to him, who she didn't even know. So I just think that's funny. Like, this guy who, is rough and tough, and his nickname was literally Rough House Ralph Mosca, and he'd probably hate if I'm telling the story. So I'm sorry, Ralph. But, yeah, it's kind of like a teddy bear. Once he saw the beauty of Stacy Keibler and how sweet she was and how nice she was, he kind of melted. So I think that's great. There was another time where he had health problems and stuff, but he had, like, a heart attack after like some football game thing I think we did or something like that. And so he had a heart attack. He was in the shower, had a heart attack, went to the hospital, and so me and Dad went to visit him. And so I think he had his phone on him, and I texted him and said, hey man, we're on our way to come see you. And so he knew we were coming, and when we got there to the room, Mark Mandrake, who was another wrestler, he was already there with his wife. And so we were talking and whatnot, and Ralph just grabs, like, the piss jug, and he just starts drinking out of it. And so we're all like, dude, what are you doing, bro? That's disgusting. And he's like, oh, what the fuck? It's sterile. It's my piss. I can do whatever I want. Fuck off. And so we're like, what the fuck, man? That's fucking nasty. And then he revealed to us that it was actually apple juice. He put, he knew we were coming, so he wanted to rib us, and so he put apple juice in it. I don't think he had used the bedpan yet, So I do think it was clean. And he, yeah, he put apple juice in there, and he ribbed us by making us think he was drinking his own piss. So that was just Ralph, man. Like, he would just do things like that to fuck with everybody, and I loved it so much. And I think maybe that's why he kind of loved me a little bit, was because I was also that way. I love a good joke. I love a good, like, rib, and I love just kind of fucking with people. So once he had me under his wing and then saw that I still was just myself and, like, would unapologetically be me and would still argue with these guys in this talent group and stuff, he was like, I kind of like it because it might be a little disrespectful, but you don't take no shit. Which is the same thing he did. He didn't take any shit from anybody. So I think that's why he liked me a little bit, was like he knew I liked to fuck with people, but also he knew that I don't take no shit. I don't fuck with nobody. Another time that he stood up for me was this is like a really weird kind of story. Somebody was having a bad match, and they were my friend at that point. They were having a bad match, and like they had a bad match, and the person came through the curtain and just like kicked me in the nuts for some reason, because they were just upset over the fact that they didn't have a good match. And Ralph just immediately got in this person's face and was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you do that?" And the guy was like, "Well, he's a fucking little asshole." And I'm like, "Okay." And Ralph was like, "I don't care what you do, but we don't fucking do that shit. Like, if you got an actual problem, then you can go outside and see me." So that was another time that Ralph stuck up for me. That time it was needed because that was uncalled for. But I just appreciate that he did that when he could have laughed or whatever, but he instantly was like, "That's fucked up. Don't do that." Yeah. There was another time that he claimed this was like my greatest rib, and I think it's funny, where he was gone and he definitely hadn't been wrestling, but he also wasn't coming to ACW and stuff. But he started coming in like a month straight. He came every week just to hang out, and he would always try and fuck with me and be like, "All right, next week I'm wrestling next week, book it." And so I was like, "Okay, Ralph, sure." Like just playing it off because I know he's fucking with me. He doesn't want to wrestle. But after like the fourth or fifth time that he did this, I was like, maybe he does actually want to wrestle, because he keeps saying this. So I was like, all right. So I booked him to wrestle on the next week, and I called him like halfway through the week, and I was like, "Hey, you ready?" And he's like, "Ready for what?" And I'm like, "To wrestle, dude. We just announced the card. You're on the show. You asked me to book you." And he was like, I could tell it's one of those things where he was like, "Oh fuck," but he didn't let on to it. So he was like, "Oh yeah. I'm good to go. I'm good to go. I'll be there." So I was fully under the impression that he just was not going to show up. I booked him in a Fatal 4-Way match so that it can be very flexible, and he wasn't involved in like some major main event or anything like that. And I don't remember exactly everybody that was in there, but I know Danny Vincent was in there. And so I think I when we were at the show again, I had no thoughts that Ralph was actually gonna show up, or that if he did show up, I didn't think he was gonna wrestle. So I pulled Danny Vincent to the side and I was like, "Hey, if he doesn't show up or he doesn't want to wrestle, like that's my impression. So just call this as a triple threat match. And if he does show up and he doesn't want to wrestle, then just kind of insert him in where you can. But call this as a triple threat match." So that's what they did, and Ralph showed up, and he was good to go, and he was ready to go, and whatnot. So he put his gear on, and he was ready to go. So I'm like, all right, yeah, insert him in the match where you can, and stuff. And Ralph told me later that his idea was that he was going to show up, put his gear on, act like he was going to go, and then once the show actually started, he was just going to get in his car and leave. But he got so into just hanging out with everybody, and like he just lost time. The music's loud, and he just lost time. So he did not get to leave once the show started because he just got like distracted by hanging out with everybody and whatnot. So it got to the point where the match is coming up and all three guys are in the ring and his music is playing, and I go up and I'm like, "Hey," because he's in the middle of just like shooting the shit with somebody. I'm like, "Hey, your music's playing, bro." And he's like, "What?" I'm like, "Your music is playing. The other three guys are in the ring. Your opponents are in the ring." And like his face just dropped and he just kind of went white and was like, "Oh, you fuck!" Like as he was walking to the curtain, he was like, "Oh, you fucking piece of shit! Fuck you, you motherfucking asshole!" Like he was just cursing me out as he was like walking to the curtain. And so I just couldn't help but laugh. And then he came back from the match, and he was like, you fucking got me, Dick. You fucking got me." He was like, "That's the greatest rib anybody's ever pulled on me." So that might be my favorite story because he just it's just so ridiculous and so funny. But yeah, I got a lot of Ralph stories. There's a story he told me about the Wild Samoans, and there's the time that I threw up in the backseat of his car. Like there's a lot of Ralph stories from over the years, but I don't want to ramble too long. As I was like getting ready to upload this and stuff like that, there was one thing I wanted to talk about, but it slipped my mind. I don't know if y'all could see back there above that Batman thing, but there's like a magazine in a frame. That was something that was given to me by Ralph. I have a photo right here. It's a for like 1986. It's like a signed Dusty Rhodes pro wrestling magazine from like the 80s, right? So that's just another thing. That was just a random gift that he gave me one time. There is a joke, or was a joke, that some of the boys said that Ralph had a bunch of those sitting, that he signed them all and would just pretend to give them out as gifts. So I don't know if that's true or not. I'm hoping it's not true. I'm hoping it is real. But nonetheless, whether it's real or not, if it is fake, then Ralph has pulled the greatest rib on me, that this thing's been hanging up in my room for like 10 years. I just wanted to share my thoughts and like some stories and some fun things. But yeah, I'm gonna wind down and just say, like, Ralph, I miss you. I love you. I know you're up there with Dad now, and I know you guys are probably looking over me and hoping that, you know, my life is good, and I hope that's what happens. Yeah, I can't thank you enough for like, you know, really taking me under your wings and like really helping me out and really looking out for me and taking care of me. Yeah, and now I'm getting emotional, but yeah, I know you're up there with Dad. I know you guys are having a good time, having a beer together, and joking about, you know, the memories and the piss jug and things like that. But yeah, I miss you, Ralph. I love you, and thank you for everything.